What up, guys? John from LinksWell here with LinksWell Together podcast episode 8. Let's do it. All right, guys, episode 8. Super good to be here. Vic is here with me again. And once again, 2 weeks in a row, we've got guests coming in. Super excited for that. We actually invited people to come to Sand and Sport because this posted a few days ago. We haven't actually gone to Sand and Sport, so I won't ask you how Sand and Sport went because you haven't gone yet.
No.
But we're set to go. But this will post after Sand and Sport. But we will be at Off-Road Expo the week after this. But we have a really cool guest. We've already had a lot of fun chatting before we actually got started. We might actually throw in a bunch of that chaos because it was some good stuff. But Mr. Aaron Hagar is in the house with us. What's up, Mr. Aaron?
I have to be silent now and calm.
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
So
we're officially recording now.
You guys are only on episode 8?
Yeah, only 8.
Oh my gosh! I think I recorded episode almost 580 or something today. Yeah, we've been doing this 12 years. Oh, you guys are a bunch of newbies. Oh, that's
man.
Smell diapers.
Yeah.
Smell dirty.
Yeah. That's why when you said yes, I was like, oh my gosh. Aaron said yes. He said yes. He's gonna come on our little podcast.
Yes.
And to think I said no to so many other people.
I know. It's all right. I will take it. Yes, we are only on episode 8.
Anytime share with you guys is a good time. Trust me.
Yeah, we always have fun. I think we do more laughing than we do working usually.
Absolutely.
That's the way it goes.
I was really depressed earlier, but I feel great now. So.
Yeah, same. I just came in from we got a new tent for our Jeep.
Yeah,
and so we had to swap that. It was in the way. We've got guys detailing cars here for the show this weekend, and all this stuff was going on. I was out there sweating, putting this tent on. I was frustrated. I burnt myself. I'm like, dang it! Now I got to go do a podcast. I got to go in my office. I got to get everything all set up, and now I'm all happy. It's like
there we go.
Super good.
Well, you know what? I have to be honest. I did the same thing because in between, I decided to put the short shifter in my Mini Cooper. Oh. And that was supposed to be a 10-minute job that hurt very badly.
Yeah.
And that's when I said, I got to ice my knee real quick and then I'll be ready.
Oh.
So when is the surgery for that?
You know, I decided not to get surgery. So folks, I stepped off my motorcycle in the sand about 4 months ago and tore my ACL and I just did a whack job of damage. I basically leapt off the bike. It was about 2 feet lower than the sand where I actually ended. And I had a straight knee and it just went kaboom. Amazing what the trauma looks like in your leg. I didn't actually hit anything, but just from the impact of itself, it was like, whoa, it just exploded from the inside. It was all bruised and just like gnarly. I'm like, wow, this is fascinating stuff. But yeah, so I decided not to get surgery.
Okay.
I don't need my ACL. I'm in my 50s. So no more twisty sports, rotating sports for me.
Yeah.
Say, well, 2 feet lower. That's a pretty big depth.
Yeah,
2 feet.
Well, especially when you're not ready for it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So basically, the sand feature was surrounded by telephone poles on their sides, stacked, and I got to the edge of it. I was doing a training thing, and I got to the edge of it. And so I didn't smack my head on the telephone pole. I just leapt off the bike as it went down, but I landed on the other side of those telephone poles, which are stacked on their side. So that's, a couple feet of depth on the other side. And I just misjudged. It's like missing the last 2 steps on the stairs,
Yep.
Or on the ladder on your way down, down on the ladder and you're like, oh, there was another step there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably would have just rolled right off, but that impact was, wow. I felt it. I definitely felt it. I'm on the ground pointing to my knee and then like off with the head, like I'm done. And then we talked about technology earlier. And then my watch went, and it said, we've detected a fall. Call the police. And I'm like trying to take my glove off and I'm pointing at my watch going, hit it. It's going to call 911.
Gotta love technology sometimes. That's crazy.
It's good.
Well, I fell off a ladder last year and I was getting tires out of the rafters. And I think when I dropped the tire, it bounced back and took out the bottom of the ladder. It was just a single orchard ladder, not an orchard, but a single, it wasn't an A-frame ladder and extension ladder. And I think it took out the bottom of the ladder. So I never saw it coming. And I dropped, my feet dropped 8 feet and my head probably dropped 12 feet or more. So, yeah, it was pretty hardcore. But I apparently didn't have the settings on my watch that I had followed.
Yeah, it didn't go off.
And I'm like calling my wife and calling our friend who works at the hospital up the street. I'm like, I feel kind of weird. Would you mind coming over and just like checking me out, making sure I'm actually, still alive?
Yeah.
Because it was weird. It's like it took my breath away, and I didn't like knock the wind out of me, but I felt weird. Like I felt really off. Your body's in a little bit of trauma. Yeah. And anyway, so now, I think I trip and it goes, it's like I didn't fall, I tripped.
It's on super sensitive.
Yeah, now. I was going to say,
that his wife set that up. It wasn't him. It's not that the phone changed anything. His wife was like, all right.
Sensitivity setting.
All right. Fall once, shame on you. Fall twice, shame on me. It won't happen a third time. She's like,
I smack a mosquito and it's like, did you fall?
No, are you okay? Life alert?
Just typical of technology, right? It's not quite there yet.
Yes, it's a great idea. It's good in theory. Good in theory. Oh, good times. Well, that sucks on your knee. Like my father-in-law is my father-in-law is like, I think he was on his 9th or 10th knee surgery.
Wow.
Yeah. So poor guy, like he actually was like a budding baseball star when he was in high school, when he actually got blew out his knee for the first time. And they did this knee surgery where they like literally peeled it open from like end to end. Yep. And since then he's had multiple other, and they actually told him, hey, you had that knee surgery. Like we found out that is the worst thing you could do for a knee.
Oh no.
Yeah. So like as a high school kid, they did this surgery that actually like set him up to have like awful knees.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah. So he actually fell last summer at my brother-in-law's house, helping him do some like renovation at his beach house. And he has been same thing. Like he was supposed to go get surgery, but has been like holding off. And but I mean, I don't know, my father-in-law he's a special guy. He actually works for the city and the Parks and Rec department.
Oh, wow.
Old and busted, and he still like outworks these like 20-somethings, and he gets pissed off at him all the time. But I know the trauma of knee surgery firsthand, because I've seen, since we've known him, since I've been married, I think he's had 2 or 3.
Wow, that's some grit, man. That's old school. Yeah. That's grit. Yeah, well, knee surgery stuff is so common. It's like it's one of those things where now that I'm in the club. It's like 90% of my friends are like, "Oh yeah, I'm on my 3rd ACL." It's like, really? I had no idea. You don't walk without a limp, But that's the thing. It's like it's really common and it's pretty well received these days. But the reality is I don't do any sports like that. I'm not much of a sports guy, clearly, Mr. Potato here. But and all the stuff that I do that's active, I don't really need it. I just have to be mindful. The only thing, I can't kind of run down mountains anymore, but I haven't done that in a while anyway. So I'm like, well, I don't care to ski anymore. I'm over that, and as long as I can ride a motorcycle, a bicycle, and do some hiking, and I'm scuba dive, I'm pretty much good with that. So, and that's kind of where I'm at. And you know how it is. You start poking holes in something like your knee, or slicing it open and messing with stuff. It's just going to aggravate it even more. So this has no urgency. And it's still healing. It'll heal, throughout the year. So I'll just see where I'm at and see what I can do. And if I can't live with it, well, then I'll go under the knife and see what happens. That'll come with its own complications. Yeah. And it'll come with the recovery. We just moved down from Lake Tahoe. I closed my shop. I had a shop called the Rat Runner's Garage up there for, 16 or 18 years. And so I closed that down and just kind of restarted life down here in Napa. And so, in a strange way, I can use the word, we feel displaced in some way. It's a big change, and not having a shop, not having a garage, not even having a shed. I literally have my tools sitting in an old trailer at the end of the property, and I have all my parts in yellow top bins sitting in the driveway in a stack, and I put a tarp over them when it rains. I mean, it's it's maddening, right? Like I showed you my toolkit. Yes. That's my little go-to toolkit, you know, like most people have. But all my Snap-on tools and Craftsman tools are up the road. But, you know, I don't have the accessibility that I used to. So it's a really change in lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I was like, more adventuring. You know, we're going to take the Jeep out again. I'm training to do Alaska next year on a motorcycle in June. That was kind of my goal next year. This year, we're going to do all these small trips, do all the expos, had all these plans. So I thought I'd start with training on the motorcycle because I've always felt I lacked talent off-road. So I went to see my friend in her training camp. She's a world champion off-roader and just a really talented person. She's got a lot of great people working with her, and I trust them. And I went down there and just made a silly, simple, lack of judgment mistake. It had nothing to do with nothing. It was just circumstance. Yeah. And I had this injury, and I'm like, wow, I can't even go to the bathroom. Like, I got a straight leg. I'm on crutches. I've never had an injury like this. I'm trying to get up and down stairs in this narrow. We're living in an old converted barn on my friend's property, so it's kind of a narrow building, and you know, I had to kind of maneuver, and I'm going, this sucks. Like, this is really hard.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm in my 50s, so I don't have that strength and flexibility that I used to just kind of, you know, twist up and do a pretzel and use the restroom. So it was a real struggle, and that took a few months to get through until I could kind of feel a little bit normal. And I'm going, I can't do a surgery. I mean, this is only 2 or 3 months of like physical recovery, and then it's just strength training and getting back to normal after that. But like, if I have an ACL surgery on the conservative, that's 6 or 8 months. You know, it could take 12 to 16 before you stop thinking about it, right?
Yep.
And I'm thinking, I just don't have the energy or the mental and emotional strength to go through that. So I thought, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
Like you hear all these, you know, all these things all over YouTube. It's like, oh, your mental health. And I'm like, my mental health is fine. Shut up. And then I hurt my knee, and I'm like, oh yeah, mental health is a real thing, isn't it?
You know what? There might be something there.
Might be something there, because I'm realizing I can't do this again.
Yeah.
Because it'll really affect my mental health.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
like my wife, and I'm sure, I hope she still likes me, but if I do my knee surgery, she's not going to like me very much.
Well, I mean, that's a whole lot. Like, I think about like being a dude, right? And so you mentioned your shop, right? Like, that's essentially how we got connected, right? You have the shop. You've built some like wild rides. I know you've been a big supporter of Kicker for a long time.
Yeah.
I know you and Kicker get along a lot. And we actually have made quite a big connection with Kicker too over the last few years, just with some of the big guys there, and like really liking our product. I've always been a huge Kicker guy. Like, I grew up in the building SEMA cars for Kicker.
Oh, wow.
Or for other companies using Kicker. So like, Kicker's always been my favorite for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just kind of, they're like, hey, Aaron's building a Gladiator, and you guys have a cool Gladiator radio. We were like, okay, we'll give him, for
and sure. He's got bad eyes, can really use looking at a bigger
screen. So that's essentially how we got hooked up. We sent you one of those things, and man, your Gladiator build is ridiculous.
I get to say I worked on it.
You did. I did.
Yes, we did.
Actually, I watched you work on it. I think I moved one panel, so that counts. I'm taking dibs. I worked on it too.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for the friends and relationships we've made over the years, and they've turned into partnerships. Because we like to work with our friends, right?
Yep.
And if we can find excuses to collaborate on a professional level, we do that all the time. And
heck yeah,
and that's kind of what our world is, and it's really really cool. So I think we started. I'll say we started working with Kicker as a brand on Dad's '79 Trans Am around 1980.
Wow.
So we've had a relationship with Kicker for a long time. And I got to know them kind of in my world and on my terms probably about 20 years ago, I think. Okay. And, you said I've been a supporter of Kicker. I have to correct you and say they've been a supporter of me. When I first started my shop, and I was just getting going and trying to navigate through this world of building things and working with other companies, they were one of the first on board, and they financially supported the shop and supported every build. Sacramento Vintage Ford did, and Lincoln Electric did, and some really fantastic companies jumped on board early and kind of set the standard. And then other companies are like, wow, you got them? Well, we'd love to get on board too. And all of a sudden I had this, superstar of hits of partners. And then everybody was on board. It was easy after that. You get a couple of heavy hitters. It's kind of like doing a collaboration record. It's like, oh, you got so-and-so. Yeah, I'm in, it's the same thing. So I got really lucky early on, and I caught an early part of the wave doing rat rods and just playing with what I could afford because it was free up in Tahoe, the land of abandoned vehicles. And life was great. And we built this relationship and got to do some really cool things and continue to. And I think at SEMA a couple years ago, you guys were showing near them. And we were walking up the stairs, and Roger Demery pointed to you guys, said, we should go talk to them because they're doing some cool stuff. You probably really, really like what they're doing. And sure enough, I was like, I don't want to be the big screen in the Jeep guy, Mr. Obnoxious. And man, I started squinting at that little screen, and I'm like, you know what? Screw this. Hook me up, Roger, and make introductions. Boy, I joke with people, but the reality is, all your functions just moved over to a larger screen and platform. And then there's so much more because it's Android based. So it's basically like your phone. You can download apps and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But literally when I'm running my maps on the trail, I'm looking at the road, and to glance at a screen that's proportional to what I can focus on in a short amount of time has been a game changer. And instead of squinting and trying to find my way on this little screen and pinching in a 5 by 3 by 5 inch space, now I just tap it with my pinky and show off, but it's really amazing. And I'm very grateful you guys have built a great project, and we're on the second generation of that. And boy, I was surprised it could get so much better. I was a little like, okay, it's a little bigger. Ooh, here we go. Now I'm going to be that guy again. And then the functionality was just so much more fluid and intuitive. I was really impressed. I still am really impressed with it.
Yeah, the XL
it's part of what gets me excited to drive.
Yes.
And it's probably one of the first things I point out. Doesn't need pointing out. It pretty much stands out on its own. But it's one of the first things I go into detail about when people see the build. Yeah. And like you said, it's a pretty extraordinary build. It
really is. I mean, you drove that thing all the way up into Alaska, right? Like, how far up did you go?
Yeah, so we went all the way up to Prudhoe. Well, it's close to Prudhoe Bay as you can drive. It's all oil property up there, so they have to take you up to the actual bay itself. But we drove as far as we could go in our time frame. We had a couple other people that went to the other Arctic circles. So there's another route that goes up a little further. And that's a pretty tough route, and we didn't have the extra few weeks to run that. So we basically beelined it up and beelined it back in a month.
Yeah.
And
in a month.
10,000 miles. There was five vehicles, all of us
Crazy.
good friends, and it was legendary. And the coolest thing was at the end of the trip, I can't even remember now, but there was one thing I would do differently, and it was like, oh, I wouldn't pack as much this. It was so well planned and thought out, from so much experience doing this over all the years. People are like, oh, you just went to the big fancy one. It's like, no, I've packed a backpack on a motorcycle and on a bicycle, and I've done every version of this leading up to this. This is kind of like the grand finale, but we've definitely earned this build. But it was so nice because all the experience we built the Jeep that was perfect for us. We didn't need to do anything to it. I haven't done anything to it since.
Yeah.
I haven't cleaned anything up. I think I'm running the exact same configuration we did on the trip, except we have the newer screen. We did that before. We did the newer screen after the trip, but yeah, other than that, I don't think I've changed one thing on that Jeep. The oil, of course, the oil. Of course I changed the oil.
Make sure. But, Aaron, you had the 12-inch, so you went from the factory one to our 12-inch, and then the last one we did was the 15.6.
Yes.
Right? So which was the bigger one, the one that goes above the dash.
Yes.
And I mean, how tall are you, would you say? Just because when people look at it outside of the car, they think, oh, it pops up above the dash. So
right.
When you're in the car, you really don't lose that much visibility, if any at all.
Exactly. So I'm about 5'9", 5'10". I think I'm shrinking now in my 50s, so I might still be 5'9", but yeah, and equal torso to leg. So it's not like I'm all torso and can have that extra height. I can see well. It's one of those things where I can see what I need to see. There's more than the top edge of the screen that's in my way.
Yeah.
All my other crap that's all over the dash is in my way, and more so than the screen. But where my wife is positioned when she drives, she's 5'4", 5'5". She has a little bit harder time. She has a little bit harder time, but still, I think what she wants to see or what she thinks she wants to see, she doesn't really need to. So it's just a matter of, I think the whole vehicle is a little intimidating to anyone smaller, because it's a big vehicle. I mean, it started out as a 21 Mojave.
Yeah.
And so they're taller and wider than even a Rubicon. And it's a big vehicle. And when you're driving it, you're way up there. She likes to be way up there, but I think she's been used to driving vehicles that just had a lot of visibility. Yeah. The Gladiator doesn't really have a lot of visibility. No. And so I found that the screen doesn't really inhibit that for me. Plus the fact that you have those cameras, and now it's just one button and I have the cameras.
Yeah.
It helps. So anything that I can't see, boop, I hit that button, and now I have all my other cameras that I can use to see. So it's much easier to use, and that's a big thing in overlanding. And when you design something, you kind of want one action to do it. So if you're going to reach for something that you need, you want to be able to reach for that thing and touch it. You don't want to move something else to get to it if it's something you use regularly.
Yeah.
And on the big screen, I've found that that's really important. So I can set that thing up to get exactly what I need with one touch or one knob twist. And that with the second generation, really, really, you guys really nailed it. Not that you didn't in the first one, but you really nailed it in the second one.
Yeah, we just keep listening, and then we do the same thing. Like, we've got our Jeep too, right? And so, like, for us, we've got the jack, the high lift on the hood.
Oh, right, yeah.
So for us, the jack sticks up over the screen anyway. So the jack's more of a visual impairment than the screen is.
But see, when you go up, you can afford to have things like that because you're 6 foot, right? You're
6'2". Yeah,
you're 6'2". Yeah, so you're over 6 foot. So yeah, you can add that extra 3 inches of jack from my Mr. 5.
And I'm only 5'6", 5'7", and
you're screwed.
I'm hanging on that steering wheel going.
Well, but you're not even wrong. Like, the Jeep really, for being so square, it doesn't give you great visibility.
No, it doesn't. Yeah,
it really does not have a great range of view. And
it doesn't.
It's because the windows are short. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't.
And the dash is tall. And it's not deep; it's shallow. So you kind of have everything right there in front of you. Plus, on the Mojave, you have that center scoop, so you have that mound. You have the mound in the center of the hood as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's fine. I'd say I think that's the 11 cracks in my windshield are more of a hindrance, especially when the sun's at that just that right angle where you see a lot of stars.
That's how you've taken your Gladiator out on the trails, is when you've got 11 cracked wheels.
It's funny. None of them were from the trip. Like we got a bunch of chips on the trip, but as soon as we came home, I went to the Colorado Expo, right? And on the way there, I took my Defender. I have an old Defender 110 that I also built out to go, and we couldn't take it at the last minute because a driver situation. Anyway. So I had to leave it behind, but we took it to the expo in Colorado, and I was driving that. My friend Adrian was driving the Jeep, and we stop at the gas station like halfway, and we both walk out and go, "Is that a crack down the middle of the windshield?" And there wasn't even like a rock chip there. It just cracked down the middle of the windshield, like out of the blue. Yeah. And then from there, it started just cracking everywhere, and now it's cracking where there were rock chips. But it's because it's like 40 at night and 108 during the day, and it's in the sun all day, and all of a sudden a new crack will appear from temperature changes now that it's been compromised. And same with the Defender. I've got like 5 cracks on the Defender windshield too. And I'm just like, what is going on down here?
Yeah,
I'm traumatized.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently. So I'd love to hear what your favorite build was. So I didn't realize that you were picking up like abandoned rides in Tahoe, and I feel like that's even cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I moved up there to look after our Cabo Wabo. Dad signed with Harrah's and licensed the name for Cabo Wabo Cantina, and they built it in. I think they opened it in May of 2004.
Okay.
So I was going through divorce at the time, and had to kind of work corporate to pay child support. I couldn't be an artist and kind of be freelance anymore. So Dad's like, "Why don't you go up there, interview with Harrah's, and work at the club there? It's the first of its kind outside of Mexico, and we could use a family presence." And I said, "All right." So I moved up here. I was separated for over a year, and I met my wife now. Then so we were dating for a few months, and she said, "Yeah, I'll go up there with you." And so we went up to Tahoe, and I started in the following February of 2005, and worked corporate. First thing, in my life, I'd never experienced anything like that. And to kind of offset that, because it was, in my world, a horrible experience, because I'm an artist, I'm freelance all my life. Right. Now I'm working corporate in a casino, running a restaurant. It started in the kitchen, worked my, anyway, I've had every job there, every cocktail, but, and so I started discovering, I had no money. I was flat broke, going through a divorce, just life was financially shit. Can I say that? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
On ours,
no,
I
you're
could
good.
cuss like crazy. Okay. Yeah. It was very challenging financially. And so free was great. And I started, as I got to know the community, I kind of gravitated towards the car community. And I had all these cool hot rods and rat rods. And before rat rods were rat rods, they were just jalopies. And all these jalopies running around. I'm like, these are so cool because they look old and funky, but they actually run and drive. And this is really cool. So I started to get into that scene, and guys were like, "Oh, I've got a chassis for you. It's been sitting in my backyard. Oh, I've got an engine for you." Next thing I know, I'm like, I'm building stuff almost for free, right? Mm-hmm. And then Vintage Ford started to help me out and got me some replacing stuff I need to replace and like tires and and things, right? Corky Coker really helped me out in the early days too. And anyway, so it started to evolve. And what I realized, because I had a lot of TV shows and a lot of appearances, and people would come up there and film, and we'd film together. And it was really cool because Tahoe is this beautiful place that you go and you ski in the winter, and you do winter sports. And then in the spring and summer and fall, you do water sports and mountain sports, and you hike and you bike and you do all these things. But there was this really intense car culture up there, because to preserve an old car in the 3 or 4 months a year that you get to use it, it is really an art. And so you have this sense of urgency all year. And these things just sit out. They either sit out on the wet side in California or sit out on the dry side in Nevada, because we're right on the border. Mm-hmm. And so you have this really unique patina on either side. And the fact that these cars have been preserved since, the early 1900s, and they're still around, and you can literally yank a body out of someone's backyard and stick it on a chassis out of someone else's backyard garage or shed that they had been working on it, and merge the two and drive it in the spring, was a really fascinating thing for me. It was almost like a resurrection, right? It was like a rebirth. And I really fell in love with it. And like I said, it was the perfect balance to that corporate grind of just, those hours, those 80-hour weeks in food and beverage and entertainment, just week to week to week, month to month to month, year to year to year. I did it for over 10 years, and it was brutal. And so the other side of this was resurrecting these old cars. So I built the Rat Runner's Garage, and it was the art of preserving and resurrecting old metal. And that was like my line. Okay. And from there, I think I probably took on 40, 50 cars in those 15 or 18 years. And I don't have a favorite, to be honest. Red Voodoo is my first and probably my favorite. It's in the Kicker Museum now in Stillwater. Yeah. I think Dad always called it my first album. He goes, "I get it." He drove in it once. He goes, "I get it. It's a piece of shit." He goes, "It's terrifying, but I get it. It's your first hit, man. It's your first hit." Yeah. And it's rough, but it's your first hit.
Yeah.
You'll get it from here. You'll evolve.
Yeah.
And it's really true. And I've maintained my first hit, and I wasn't a one-hit wonder, thankfully. But yeah, and then went on to trucks, and because I started doing the Rubicon and started camping more with the kids, we'd get to see the kids more, and we'd take them out camping. And I still have my Pinsgauer, but I got a Pinsgauer because that was like the ultimate van. And we put a rooftop tent on it. We'd go out tenting and off-roading, and we did the Rubicon in the Pinsgauer, and it was an amazing thing. And then it just evolved. And I always was chasing old Land Rovers because as a kid, I went to Africa with my family before my siblings were born, at the age of 15, and experienced this life over there in an old Land Rover, and fell in love with it. So I was restoring old Land Rovers, and I eventually got that Defender and built that out for overlanding, cut the roof off, put an Alucab Icarus top, which is the whole top raises just like the Gladiator does. And then I couldn't find a 130 at the time, which is their truck version. You couldn't import them. And so I was like, well, Jeep makes a really cool one. And so I went down to the Jeep dealership. Of course, during COVID, couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And they had one in the back they hadn't put out yet. And he's like, well, we got one in the back. And I ended up getting that one with 0 miles on it, financed it, and built that out, and had a goal to do Alaska because we were supposed to do it before COVID in the old Land Rover. So I built the old Land Rover to do it. And then I got all these sponsors on the Jeep. So we just kept going and we built out that Jeep. So it's an evolution. So what's your favorite is really hard because everything along the way is your favorite. You know what I mean? Because you put your heart and soul into it. Yeah. Sorry, I talk a lot, guys.
No, you're good. I'm right with you. Like, I mean, I've had the pleasure of building a fair amount of SEMA stuff. Not nearly 50 or 60 or anything like that. And I don't think
none of those were SEMA cars, mind you.
Well, like but you got a car in.
They weren't SEMA cars.
Yeah, but you got a car in Kicker's museum, so that says a lot. Yeah. Like anybody in the automotive world, at least on the 12-volt side, like the what Kicker has done in persona, I don't know that any manufacturer has done. Like I know like you have all these other manufacturers like, you know, Kenwood and Sony and Alpine, and they've all kind of got their persona. Fosgate's got a persona, but I feel like Kicker has really they are a different company.
Well, they're a family-owned company.
Yeah.
The founder is still working the company.
They're the same
and
guy,
everybody there, it's like Roger's like, oh, I'm one of the new guys. I've been here 36 years. You know, it's like these are lifers, man. It's a family, and I think there's so much more integrity in that.
Yeah, but you think of Kicker too. I mean, they've mastered their craft. I mean, anything Kicker, speakers, amps, it's great.
Well, they invented it too.
Yeah, right. And so, and you look at companies like you said, Kenwood, Sony. You know, these guys also make speakers. They also make amps. But you don't think of a Sony as an amplifier or speaker company. You think of them more of electronic stuff, cameras, TVs, maybe their radio, right? But you don't think of them as an amplifier or speaker. But when you think of Kicker, you go, yeah, they make great amps. You know, they also make speakers. Yeah, they make great speakers too. Yeah. So you think of Kicker as a well-rounded type company. So they've mastered their craft. I think that's part of why they've made such a great name for themselves in the industry and for so long. Yeah. Right. But Aaron, I have a question for you too, because you think of guys who build cars and do all these things, right? You guys are thinking overland, you're thinking performance, you're thinking bodies, chassis, motors. Where does the technology, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, in your mind, where does technology in the car come from? Because I think that depending on where you grew up, like in our case, like we come from the electronics background of the vehicle. So when we look at a car and we look at a build, we're thinking in-car entertainment, audio, video, amplified, lighting. So where is your mind as far as the in-car entertainment part, or is it even there? Like at what point do you go, you know, we got to look at the stereo in this car, and I think that, you know, we should do XYZ. I guess that's where I'm at. Like, where is your mind when it comes to these builds? And in your case, right, you built your car. Was it even in your mind? Did you even think that something like what we do for your vehicle was ever even possible?
Excellent question, boy. This is going to light a fire. So yes, so I would have these visions for these cars, and it's amazing because I used to keep a notepad by my bed, and I'd have a dream, and I'd wake up and I'd take notes and draw sketches just blindly. And the one I did for Red Voodoo, our first build, I say our because there was a lot of people involved, even though it was my vision. Uh, my sketches for that car and all the things that just showed up and came to be are almost identical to that initial vision in a dream. And so that's how a lot of my vehicles become is they're a dream, they're a vision. So, and they're very analog. And then I'm finding old parts or old vehicles, and oh my God, there's the body that's from my dream. It's exactly, I mean, there it is. And I chop it and I channel it and I do all this to it, and it evolves. But yeah, it's like, so how do you add all these electronics? And that comes to be a problem when you have all these partners and sponsors and relationships, because you want to work with all these companies. And it's like, well, how do I integrate and bring this into this build when it doesn't belong? So it's part of my creative outlet to make something cohesive. And in doing that, sometimes it yields these really exotic builds. So I'm not the guy that airbagged and did all this chassis work and some of the stuff that people are doing now. I think the rat rod term is gone. But what people are doing now to these hot rods, and they are by all means hot rods. They always have been. Whether they're in patina or not, they're still a full blown hot rod. It's still the passion and the commitment of hot rodding. But how they've evolved now is people are building these very intricate chassis and designs for using and utilizing airbags and even ABS brakes and all this technology, and then putting an old body on it. And it's awesome. And they found a great way to hybrid it. I didn't quite have that talent, and I was a lot more analog and raw, and my skill set was always evolving, but started out at a very basic level. As I earned tools, I would also earn the skills to use them, but I never really got into that sophistication of building. So I would find found objects and try to integrate them with speakers or with a head unit or a kicker had a Bluetooth unit. So I didn't even have to have a head unit. So I would use that most of the time and just put that somewhere out of the way. Or on Red Voodoo, I had this cool, because it was an aircraft theme, I had this really cool aircraft panel with old switches and knobs. And I try to make some of it work, but the voltage on those aircraft stuff is crazy. So sometimes I just repurpose them. And it became a matter of repurposing. So we would hide the speakers inside of a housing of something else that I couldn't use for how it was intended. So now I could repurpose it for something cosmetic. And so I started to hide things, and which wasn't a problem for Kicker, which is pretty cool, because at that point they're going, well, then we're just part of your sound. You don't have to showcase what it looks like, because that it doesn't look right. You can't put that amp in the middle of the console in Red Voodoo, because it just doesn't work. And they were very generous with that. And so Red Voodoo became this really crazy hybrid build. And when it did go to SEMA, we leveled up, and I said, let's completely redo the whole stereo in this car and really make it like impact. So you're not going to hear much in the car. So we built a basic system in the car just for show. And I said, what you're going to hear is when it's parked in the back. So let's make like a PA system. And so they had these what they use for boats, and they had these big tubes, right? These housings. And so I cut those up and made them look like jet engines. And so, because Red Voodoo had like propellers for stake sides, it had 50 caliber Gatling gun exhaust, and it had some really unique aircraft type features in it. So it kind of evolved into, okay, we can put like these jet packs on the back. And so I made them look like these jet packs, and I put the sub in a big aluminum box that I made, and put, old stuff and rivets on it. And it totally worked. And I dropped the half tailgate, because it was a half tailgate. So I dropped the half tailgate. It would reveal all those speakers, and it would just, it would hammer, and it was really cool. And then we took it to Kicker to put in their museum, and they're like, could we upgrade this even more? And I went, yeah. And then they went like next level and built this I just said, do whatever you want. It's in your museum. Now we're showcasing product. Like you don't have to disguise it. Now we're showcasing product, and boy, did they do some cool stuff. And I mean, I've heard it, but I haven't taken it home to experience it because it's still in the museum.
Yeah.
But if you look on their website or you look online or you look at some of the footage there, you'll see Red Voodoo, usually with left front flat tire. But
random.
But yeah, but wait till you see what they did in the back. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes it evolves into something that you can see the product, and sometimes it just is cohesive with the product. But I never had to go real modern. Like I wouldn't know how to. Well, now I would, because your LinksWell system could easily be that aircraft navigation screen in the middle of the console. So you know what I mean? It's like I would accept a partnership if it was a theme that I could integrate cohesively into what I'm doing in a creative way, still showcase the product, at least in its functionality, if not always in its cosmetics, but it really depends on what it was. But I really didn't have to be honest, other than some audio stuff, you know.
That's cool. So we're actually coming out with a universal version of that 15-inch screen for all the Resto Mod guys. So they can do so we're working on being able to control things like vintage air with the AC and airbag controllers and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
So that so we're actually in the middle of kind of finalizing some of that work. So we're hoping to be able to be that high tech thing in some of these Resto Mods coming up here in the next couple of years. We're hoping that we'll probably. I really, really, really want to build one. So I'm hoping that the company will eventually just let us build one that can be ours. So we'll see. But on the line of like networking, so I've been in this industry since '98. How long have you been in the industry?
About 24 years.
Yeah. So for me, like LinksWell, we are 7 years old, right? I always get this number wrong and I get yelled at. It might be 8. It might be 7. Is it 7?
Last time.
Did I say 6 last time? Okay.
7, yeah.
God, man, I hope so. I don't want to get choked again.
Somebody choked you?
Yeah, like it was bad. You know, I got punched in the face. You know, it's right in the face. Anyways,
just get Dad some M&M's stuff. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. That's actually the candy on the counter now. I wonder if he had anything to do with that. Yeah, okay. Off topic.
No, they don't have peanuts, so it's
not
them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But there's like I have such.
Sorry, folks. That's an inside joke.
Yeah, we're good. You're not even wrong. I have such a high level of respect for Kicker, right, because of who they are and the persona they've created. So, like the last 3 or 4 years, like getting to partner with a company like Kicker and the guys, like you said, they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
And having had been like as a young company as we are in this industry, trying to do something nobody's done before, and to have a company that is so driven at quality, to see us and be like, man, they've got something, and being able to partner with them on so many builds. Like our builds are always running Kicker gear. We've sent so much of our product into some of their builds across all over the place. Like it's just for me, it was like one of those, like, man, we're getting there. Like I feel like when you're trying to start something new, like sometimes it can feel super discouraging, right? Like
it's one thing when you're building, we talked about niche type product. It's one thing when you're building a niche type product, and then you have a company like Kicker who acknowledges that and says, I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
So that's where you get that, okay, cool. It's not just us that recognizes that. It's these guys, because being industry guys for so long, we understand what the market wants. We understand. So we think and work like engineers, and we work together with our engineering team, but we are the ones that think like a consumer as well. So if we allowed an engineer to build this thing, the consumer would get it and go, what in the world is this?
Yeah.
It'll be an over-engineered piece of equipment. But when you've got industry guys like ourselves, we go, yeah, that's cool. But, as a consumer, this would probably be better. So that's where, we come in, and like you're talking, just being in the industry for so long, that's where our 2 cents come in.
Yeah, and it's super good. I just appreciate like we wouldn't have never got to meet you if it wasn't for Kicker creating, like you said, like that company.
Well, we might have, because Orange Door was right across.
That's true. I know. So funny. Did you hear about that?
No, but I know that,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah, he was like, "Hey, Orange Door! I got an old Orange Door system. I need to get back to him."
You see him working on.
We used to use them in the cup. I think we still do in Vegas, but the Cabo Cantinas, we use their systems, and they gave me a couple to use at the shop in the house, and they were really obsolete. So I wanted to return them, and I'm like, hey, they're literally next door.
Yeah, literally across the street. Like, our windows.
So you never know. We might have worked together anyway.
That's true. Very, very, very true. But
if you saw the Jeep, you would come out and go, hey, what are you running as a
let me show you a radio you should have. Yeah.
If it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
No, you're not wrong there. But it is always nice to like I said, having the vote of confidence. Like when you know you've got something good, you know it. Like having somebody that you respect, like compliment that and be like, yes, you have something special. And then getting to like work with you, with somebody with such insight on, like creativity, like the idea of being over engineered, right? Or over, I don't want to say like we're not a, like you said, we're not an airplane dash, right? Like that's super artistic. We feel more manufactured than set apart. But for you to see some sort of like set apartness in our manufactured side of things, it's just I don't know. I'm grateful for it, and I'm glad, and it's encouraging for me. And I think encouraging for the whole team here when we get people who have, just vote of confidence are super encouraging. And so
totally get it. And in fact, that's usually part of my pitch when I'm looking to work with someone and I'm reaching out to them, which it's been about 50-50. I've had companies come to me and I've gone to companies that I want to work with and that I've already used and say, hey, I have a lot of experience with your product. Why don't we work together? Let's see if we're compatible. And I try to work with stuff and use it in a way that is not normally used. And I like to test things and put them through their paces and maybe do an application that they didn't really consider or think of. And for you, I haven't had the opportunity to do that. But I was going to say earlier, it as something we can do in the future. Red Voodoo is always evolving. And Pete Shaporis, the late Pete Shaporis of SoCal Speed Shop, was our partner and co-host with our show Shift and Steer. And before he died, he was working on Red Voodoo because he looked over it one day and he's like, I forbid you to drive this. It is the most unsafe vehicle I have ever seen. And I build world famous hot rods and I refuse to have you drive this. And he literally made me bring it from SEMA straight to his shop. And we went over budget and I said, I can't even come close to affording this. And he said, we'll figure it out. So let's start with the rear end. And they completely redesigned and rebuilt the rear end. And before we could get to the front end, he passed. And then I was scrambling to get it because SoCal, unfortunately, when he passed, went through some ugly days before Pete Porras Jr. Pete 7, I think. I forget which. Anyway, his son took it over and he was able to get it back. And Pete and I have talked about bringing Red Voodoo back and evolving it. So Red Voodoo looks very cool. And the rear end actually drives really nice, but the front end is still squirrely and it's gotten more squirrely in its age, even more. And I want to evolve that car. So someday when it comes out of the museum and when I get a shop soon in the next couple of years and I'm able to do stuff again, I want to work real hard on what I have to make it better instead of starting with a bunch of new ideas. Yeah. And Red Voodoo is that one that I want to evolve. And it's funny because I literally printed out the face of a screen and put it behind the housing so it looked like it was on. I have a housing from an F-16 that's sitting in the dash with a piece of paper laminated with an image behind it. And I would say, let's take that idea. And now that we have the ability to 3D print and do all this cool stuff, in the next couple of years, we'll be making 3D printed metal housings and do something. And I would say I want to design a whole new dash not out of found parts, but let's design something really cool and let's integrate one of your screens into that.
Yeah, I'm down.
And so
Totally.
we use your universal screen in an application where the screen is intact and whatever mechanics that you have with that screen will be intact, but the application of it will be in something a little different. And I'd say let's put a pin in it. And
I vote yes.
That's super vote. And if you have you been to the Kicker Museum in Stillwater?
I have not.
If you get the opportunity to, I would say go. It's an amazing the building, the architecture, to see everybody in their place, in their home is pretty cool. But they've built this beautiful museum of some really cool vehicles, but they also have a walkthrough of its history from the first sub that they ever built to the most contemporary stuff and all the trademarks and patents that they own and this whole evolution. But they have this huge wall that's a collage of all these great ideas that people have had. And some of them are groundbreaking, some of them are legendary, and some of them are what you would expect. But they were all ahead of their time in some way. And it's really neat to see that evolution. But you'll see Red Voodoo there, and open the door carefully. Don't cut yourself, and get a tetanus shot before you go, and have a seat and look at that dash. And if you get any ideas for it, go for it. Or have Roger or whoever John or Roger over there.
I'll talk to John over.
And,
hopefully he's at Sundance.
Yeah. I mean, they're always looking for things to do, right? Because they don't have enough to do.
Yeah.
And if they want to update Red Voodoo with one of your systems, even now, I'll fly out there and supervise as well. But we could do this now. We could do it later. Yeah. So put that log in there, and we'll take it to SEMA next year.
We will burn that log down.
Do it.
In a good way. Not in a bad way.
I invite you if that's something you want.
Man,
thank you. Great.
I think we're there. I think we can realize it, and I'm happy to step back a little bit and let some other people have some fun.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I know those guys over there are super talented. We've gotten good chance to get to know some of them.
They're fabricators and they're guys that they've invested in some high tech stuff, and boy,
they're just smart guys.
Stuff. They really are.
Yeah, they're just talented guys, so can't go wrong working with talented guys.
Right.
That's just the way it works. So yeah, well, on that note, bombshell, boom. We're gonna get in a rat rod. It's gonna happen. I'm just gonna make it happen. I don't know how we're gonna make it happen. I know a couple of our reps have gone to their museum just recently because I've seen it on their Facebook. So I'll hit Matt up. I bet you Matt can get us in there.
Yeah, it's so fun. And Stillwater's a cool, fun town. You could go see Eskimo Joe's and do some stuff. We actually flew into Texas, was visiting some friends in Texas, and rented a car, and it was like 3 hours. So we just drove to Oklahoma, and it was a beautiful drive. I mean, it's so cool. Depending on the time of year you go, but
my wife's got a bunch of family in Oklahoma, so I can
go perfect
family trip.
Make it part of the trip.
Yeah,
make it part of the trip.
We're gonna go see
it's worth it.
Family.
That'd be cool.
And really cool things at Kicker.
Yes,
it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, maybe one day we'll get to have a LinksWell wall of progression.
I've actually had that thought myself, to have a LinksWell sort of, not a museum, but like where it all started, with camera interfaces, and then our Gen 1 and 2 and the different generations, and how the product evolved from, what it was to where it is now. But those thoughts came when we were looking for a new building, and that didn't happen. I was like, man,
we could have a hero. Yes. Yeah. No, I agree. Museum. Yeah, it would be really cool.
I want to see the headline: LinksWell joins Neuralink.
Oh yeah,
because it links well to Neuralink.
Yeah, let's do it.
We don't make screens
anymore. Just think
that's
it.
So
yeah,
that's
we'll
so
just think it.
2020.
Yeah, that's so old school. We're gonna be in your brain. Man, I don't know if I would want the legal things for messing with somebody's brain. That's.
Oh no, you're not messing with it. You're just using your screen to you blame it on Elon.
There we go.
He's messing with it.
Wasn't me. Well,
Neuralink together with LinksWell.
Well, links well with others.
There you go.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, that's why our podcast is links well together.
Wait, is it LinksWell or does it LinksWell?
It link. That's a
It
good question.
links well.
LinksWell. I guess it depends on how you say it. It's links well,
yes,
or LinksWell.
Well, if the 50s character comes into the 21st century, then maybe we can link swell.
Yeah.
What if we added an S at the end?
LinksWells.
LinksWell.
Links.
I
don't even know what's happening right now. Are we rebranding? We're rebranding on episode 8.
I think you guys need to eat.
Yeah.
I think you need to eat.
I don't think you're wrong. Vic had to come save me. My car broke down on the way in this morning, so didn't get coffee in time, didn't get breakfast in time.
Man,
we are a hot mess today.
Yeah. All over the place.
We are a super hot mess. But well, you've already kind of shared your best part or your favorite part about the radio. It's funny, you are pretty much exactly what Jonathan said from OnX last week. Was when he's out. So Jonathan's one of the trail mappers for OnX.
Yeah.
And we ran into him at Sandisport last year, put a radio in his Tacoma. And that was his thing, is like going out on all these trails. So he's doing the trails that aren't necessarily on the map. And so he's needing to really use that map.
He's hardcore, yeah.
Yeah. So for him, he's like, dude, a 13-inch screen compared to, even a tablet. He goes, it's life-saving when I'm like, am I going to end up getting shot going on somebody's farmland right here, or am I, good to go? So
no, it really is. And when you have the multitasking that a lot of these devices have, you have a larger space in order to view those. So when you go to your climate, I know exactly where to find the seat heaters, or I know exactly. It's like I don't have to think about it. I can just visually process it and act on it, instead of having to search.
Right.
And I found that getting familiar with the screen and its layout very quickly, at least for things that I use often, happened very quickly as well. There's not a big learning curve with it, even for someone like me. I know I've called you multiple times on updating it, which I still haven't successfully done. And that's not you guys, but that's not you guys.
You just need to come down, and we just need to go have some fun, do some little camping or something. Like we are in the last legs of doing all of our development on our power management system.
Yeah.
So like some legit testing. Yeah, some legit testing needs to happen here real quick. Just got our batteries in last Friday.
Yeah, last week.
So we'll put
well, let me know. I'm probably not doing SEMA this year. It's just a lot of walking, and I other than seeing everybody, which is really the reason to go. I don't have any commitments that I know of. And I had one with CTech, which I just can't host this year. It's the kind of demand that I always say yes to, but I actually had to pass this year. And, so I thought that was the only one I really was committed to, but, I think I'm going to pass on SEMA. So if you guys aren't going, or anything around that, I'm game. Just let me know.
Yeah. No, I will set something up. We will be at SEMA. We'll actually have 2 booths at SEMA.
Oh gosh. Well, then I should be.
So we'll have a booth in the North Hall, of course, showing off all of our radios and stuff, and then we'll have our two of our Overland builds over in the Overland Experience, showing off the new power management system. So
very cool. Well, think about it. If you want to play with a retro mod or a hot rod, and Red Voodoo is something that sparks interest, we can certainly visit that. It's been sitting at Kicker for 5 or 6 years now, I think. So if it needs to migrate here, it certainly can. And if you have an idea for an example of something that's a little out of the ordinary, but just to show the out of the ordinary application, I'm more than happy to entertain the idea, or anything else that I'm ever doing. I kept the Morgan, I kept the Mini Cooper, I kept the Gladiator and the Land Rover and the Pinsgauer, and that's it. I let everything else go. So those are some strange ass vehicles.
Well, that's what I'm all about.
Yeah.
So they
all have kicker, but the Morgan.
Yeah.
The Morgan's the only one that doesn't have kicker because there's literally no room.
Yeah.
I don't even have a place to put my phone. I stick it between my legs and kind of sit on it a little bit.
Interesting.
And that rarely works out well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Literally, there's not, if my glasses aren't around my neck, which sometimes they blow out, there's literally no place for anything. So that one's kind of, I won't say off the table, but unlikely.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, no, we will for sure, because I know the hope was even this year to be able to demo the Universal on a hot rod. It just because of the tediousness of wanting to make something that's actually functional, we've just decided that it's not going to be. We didn't want to force it and then make something that we weren't happy with, and then
I mean, we want convertible top, windows up and down.
Yeah, we want to control all the things.
Oh yeah. So you guys need something that someone's built something with all those functions. Because Red Voodoo, the windows go up manually, but the knob falls off most of the time, and I never recut the windows to match the chop. So it's not even analog. It's always evolving. Needing to evolve. Yeah.
Well, and so I've actually been looking at like the old CJ5s, with the super small deep and building out and putting in the big screen on the CJ5, because that CJ5 is just literally a cluster, like a circle cluster. Yeah. That's like all that's on the dash.
That's it.
So, and that won't have windows or anything like that. But the idea would be, just like you said, like a guy out there with a CJ is probably, crawling something over or crawling over something. And so, why wouldn't he want, a nice big screen?
Well, anything that you see, if they're one of my friends, you let me know and I'll make introductions. See, we like introducing friends to friends. That's one of the best parts in life. Building that community.
Totally agree with you. So, but cool. Well, thanks so much for hanging with us, man.
Oh my gosh, of course. It's about time. I'm sorry. I had to put you off.
It's
a couple
fine.
Months.
It's cool. It's cool.
I was hoping you'd get into the teens by now, but
I tried
for chapter
100. He's like, wait till you get to 100, and it feels like we've been doing this way more than 8 episodes. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I feel like we should be way up there, but maybe that's
because it's natural and you're good at it.
No, I don't know about that. I think it's the stress.
There was one week where I'm like, I think John's way ahead. Like, I think we did like 4 that week, and I'm like, we have like a month and a half.
We did,
and then it's like 8.
Yep, yeah. We really feel like and then I actually brought all the gear to do a live one at the last show we were at, but it was so busy. I was like, this isn't gonna happen. Never mind. So
that's a whole nother. Show. And I have so much gear and so many lav mics and so many. I mean.
Yep.
The production I used to do at shows and SEMA and stuff is just, I spent all my time editing, and it was just trying to run that restaurant and do SEMA and edit and do everything in a timely manner. It was just too much, but it's a lot of fun. But sometimes just simple is best. Sometimes just handing a mic to someone and nobody oversteps, we're all stepping on each other. It's normal, but you just hand someone a mic, stick it in their mouth and let them talk, and then pull it away and you talk, and it's pre-edited.
Yes, you're not wrong there. Yeah, so that's actually because Vic has come on board and taken almost the tech support stuff is really because for a long time I was answering all the tech questions, answering all these onto these, and then trying to produce videos. Man, it was super overwhelming. So now with Vic handling a lot of that stuff, it's actually freed me up, and then I just get to steal him. He gets a free.
Nice. You can see. He's the technical guy because he's so clean shaven.
Yes. Yeah,
he doesn't have any interference.
No,
we have all this interference.
All sorts of interference. Yeah.
I need nothing holding me back.
You like to feel the electricity.
Yeah.
He looks like only 8 episodes.
Yeah. He hasn't stressed out yet. He's not gray. He's like, I can't do this anymore.
I just get called in. Vic, you ready? Yep. Is my chair ready? Yeah, your chair's ready.
I think it all set up.
His name tag should say Tidy Vic.
Tidy Vic. We were calling him Clutch. You mentioned that earlier. We were calling him Clutch because he kept hiding tools from us, and then we were good. Where'd the tool go? He's like, I got it, guys. And I'm like, why do you keep hiding the stuff, Vic? Why do you have the job, dude? You don't have to have job security. You have the job. You don't. Oh man,
well done, boys. Well done.
Yeah, good stuff. So thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for episode 8. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but thanks for hanging out with us all the way through episode 8. Remember, we do have that giveaway still.
That's right.
We are still trying to hit that 12.5K in the subscribers. The link will be in the subscription. Aaron, I'll link your stuff too, so people can come check you out.
There's nothing to see.
Man,
nothing
you
to
are.
see here.
What are you talking about? You're an artist. You sing. You build cars. Like you are like the Swiss Army knife of cool people.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I will get
it's
links
just
there.
living a life of creativity. It's really that simple. When you're a creative person, I don't feel I have to be the best at anything. I just enjoy the journey of doing everything. It's a great life. You have many outlets.
I will let everybody follow you. For all of those who don't get to live the creative life on a regular basis, we will live vicariously through you. So we'll get Aaron's stuff in there. You guys can check out Aaron's things. Maybe the next time you guys see Aaron on board, it's because we'll be talking about Red Voodoo or something else we're building with him. But guys, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
And that's episode 8 in the books. We'll see you next week.